This is a 4-year-old Japanese larch that has been grown from seed. And as you can see, it's not exactly exciting or appetizing. But what can you make from this? This is also a Japanese larch. This is a much older seedling. This is about 8 years old, but we haven't let it grow tall because we keep cutting the top off. And as they get older, they get these beautiful little rosettes, which make them look really attractive. And the color is nice. The Japanese larch has a lovely apple green color in the spring, and they turn deep green in the summer, and then in the autumn they turn a beautiful golden yellow. This is now September, and already the needles are turning golden yellow. Let's start with the more difficult one. This, as I said, is not very exciting, but believe it or not, we can still make it an interesting bonsai. These lower branches have died off because they were planted very close together in the trays, and because they didn't get much light, all these lower branches have died off. But not to worry, most deciduous plants, and this is a deciduous conifer by the way, will sprout new branches very easily. So I've cut off all those. I will probably cut this off. Now you will be asking me, what can you do with a straggly plant like this? But believe it or not, we will transform it before your very eyes. I'm now going to make this into an informal upright or S-shaped bonsai, like this. The larch is a very pliable tree, and you can really bend it into any shape. So simply by bending it, you can see that the shape has been transformed. The best way of keeping the trunk in this shape is to use wire. Ever since wire was introduced into bonsai, and that is only fairly recently, maybe in the last 40 or 50 years, prior to that, most of the bonsai was done simply by cutting. We will use wire. This is bonsai wire. It's aluminium wire. There are all sorts of wires. There's copper wire, aluminium wire. Some of the Chinese nurseries use iron wire because it's cheap. But now that we have aluminium bonsai wire, this is by far the best wire to use for shaping trees. You've got to use the right grade of wire. Now, to bend a trunk of this thickness and this flexibility, I know that this piece of wire, which is I think 3 millimeter, will bend that trunk. Much of the choice of wire comes from experience, but a lot of it is to do with common sense. If I want to bend this trunk, I'm not going to use this wire, which is 0.5 millimeter thick. No way can I bend this trunk by using this wire. So, as I said earlier, a lot of it is due to common sense, and it doesn't take a lot of imagination to realize what grade of wire will do the job. Okay, I'm going to wire this piece of wire on the trunk, so I leave a little more than I need so that it takes up the slack in wiring. And I'll cut the wire off with the wire cutter. Never cut wire with scissors, ordinary trimming scissors, you will blunt them. There are special bonsai tools, and this is a bonsai wire cutter that cuts it quite easily. So use the wire cutter. If you have a pair of these Felco secateurs, you can also cut wire with that notch in the Felco. So that is also usable. We will now insert the wire into the soil and proceed to wrap the wire very tightly around the trunk. It needs to be very, very tight. Don't keep it loose, because if it is loose, the wire will simply grate around the bark and can remove the bark from the tree. So here we go, we're wiring the trunk, and I know from experience that that grade of wire will bend that trunk. So when we make the S, it's not just a flat S like that, although that is acceptable. We are going to make a 3-dimensional S. So think of making a coil, or like stirring a pot. You stir the pot in that motion. So give it a good twist, and there you are. Just one coil changes the shape of the tree quite dramatically, as you can see. So that is quite nice. And we will now proceed to wire the branches. Take it out of its pot. Look at the roots there. So healthy. Although it's a bit pot bound, it's a sign that this tree has been grown very strongly and healthy. And now we will prop it at the correct angle. Although the tree was growing out of the pot like that, I'm not going to make the bonsai in that direction, in that shape. I'm going to lean it slightly so that the trunk comes out of the pot at a slant. And then I will proceed to wire the branches. Okay. We need to match the pairs of wires for the similar thickness. Some of the branches here are very, very thin, so I'll discard those. Now these two are similar. When it comes to wiring the branches, there is one fundamental rule that we always tell people to adopt, and that is to use the two branch principle. That means we use one piece of wire to wire two adjacent branches. So I will find two branches which are fairly similar in thickness. In fact, I can get rid of this little one because I don't think I need it. Okay, these two are similar. So I will wire these two branches with this piece of wire. So that's one branch and this is another branch. The reason why we use the two branch principle, that is using one piece of wire to wire two branches, is because it gives a nice neat finish, neat appearance, and also one branch acts as the anchor for the other one. There's no reason why you can't wire each branch on its own and wrap it around the trunk, but if you kept doing it to all the branches, you will soon find that the tree will look a mess because all the wire ends will end up round the trunk of the tree. So the two branch principle has a logic, and the logic really is neatness and also effectiveness. It makes it very effective. Okay, we will wrap the wire around the trunk and then traverse it across to the branches. We won't bother about arranging the branches just yet. We are just going to wire every single branch and see what the result looks like. Okay, now I find that these two make a pair. So I'm going to once round the trunk and take it out to the branch. We're going to arrange the branches so that it forms a nice conical shape, and that will be the shape of the tree. We cut the wire off over there and then we trim the branches so that we get a nice conical shape, broad at the base, tapering to a point. You can also zigzag the branches to shorten the branches if you wish. Now these little branches can also be wired. Might as well do a complete job. Again in pairs. Find a pair of branches to wire together. The larch is a very easy tree to develop, because they produce branches very easily. Being a deciduous tree, come the spring you'll get lots of new branches growing all over the place, and they also produce side shoots, secondary shoots from these branches, which will finally make the pad like a palm of the hand. Okay, so that is the shape of the larch, and we can now find a suitable pot to put it in. I won't do the final potting now, but suffice to say, all we do is we disentangle the roots, find a pot that is the right size. We leave potting for another day, and that is your started tree, and if you can wind your video back and see what we started from, this is quite a credible bonsai. And we produce these one every 3 minutes. That's how long it should take for a proficient person who knows how to wire well. But if you take about 15 minutes to half an hour, you're doing well.